Hello! Happy Monday! Oh my goodness. Thanks, Druid. It's a Monday. Monday again. Monday, Monday, Monday. All weekend, despite the fact I had weekend things to do and I knew which day it was, I kept thinking, is it Saturday or is it Sunday? And then I'd remember because of whatever it was I had been working on. And then, I don't know, this weekend went on for an eternity and yet it also went by really fast. So I hope you guys had a very good weekend. Some of you may have been with me and Jill for Stitch and Glitch, um, which I don't think there was anything majorly notable from that other than just our usual silliness. Oh, hey, Padma. My Mother's Day was nice. For most of the day, I was by myself, which is glorious. And I think that was what I was like, everybody's at work. Is it Monday already? I hope yours was good. So today, kind of a low-key day. We're going to look at a Quilter's Newsletter magazine. I did a random poll, but it's a good one. This is from 1991. I was getting ready to graduate high school. As a reminder, and I'll remind you again at the end, I will not be here on Thursday, and I will not be here next Monday. I'll be back for my and Jill's stream on next Tuesday, and then back normal next Thursday. I am leaving on this Thursday and returning on Monday. I'm going to Massachusetts to hang out with Jill for a few days. We are going to take a little field trip to Block Island, which is Rhode Island. Block Island is one of the barrier islands there up in New England. And I'm very excited. I've been to a different island. I think I've been to like Plum Island, or maybe Plum Island has some sort of military association. I can't remember. In any event, it's been at least 25 years ago since I've been roundabouts there. So yeah, and I think it's probably been about that long since I've been to Massachusetts. I've been to other states up there in New England, but to spend any time in Massachusetts, it's been a while. My mother had to remind me of a time she had like a conference to go to in Boston one year. And she decided, I think I was about 12. So I would have been in like 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. Yeah, I think I was in 8th grade. And we went, and she took me out of school for a few days. And so we'd made all these wonderful plans to go to Salem to see like the witchcraft stuff, like the witches. And I think we kind of walked around Harvard. And the day that my mom was at her conference, I got to walk around by myself. Oh. I went to a Saks Fifth Avenue in Boston. It was wild. And then the night that I went to Saks Fifth Avenue and the night of her conference, we went and had a glorious lobster dinner. I'd never had lobster before. And the next morning we were supposed to be getting on a little tour bus thing to go to Salem and see that. And I woke up in the middle of the night in my mom's hotel room, absolutely monstrously sick. And my mom thought it could have been an allergy or something, but like I think I had food poisoning. I think I got lobster-borne food poisoning. And so there ended our fabulous trip to Massachusetts. We never got to go to Salem. And now 40 years later, I'm gonna have to take my mom back there soon at some point so we can go to Salem. I feel so bad that I ruined that for her. And it was probably about this time of year too. It was towards the end of school, the end of the school year. It was probably like April, I would guess, because it was warm enough out that like I remember wearing like a blouse and a mini skirt kind of outfit there, and probably a lightweight jacket. So it was about this time. Anyway, that's my Boston story. I have been to Boston since then, but not with my mom and not to Salem at all. So, well, I hope you guys, like I said, I hope, yeah, it is never too late to revisit at all. And I'm sure that they have done lots of fun things, since the 80s in Salem. Um, my guess is like their historical stuff. I think there's a museum there. Um, I'm sure their historical stuff is they've raised the bar. So um, I must get there eventually. So all right, we're gonna look at Quilters Newsletter magazine, and then of course keep going with Patchwork. And like I said, I pulled this one kind of randomly. I knew I was pulling from my 1990s magazine file, so I knew it was a later one. I don't like to go too much past like mid 90s though. I can't remember the exact date that F&W acquired them. Whenever it was that the Lehmans decided to retire and sell the rights, F&W got it. They thoroughly ruined it, in my opinion. I only have a couple of issues from that time period. My mom had stopped subscribing. I think I bought like some issues on the newsstand, kind of issues. I never had a subscription to it. Um, so much better when Lehman's had it. So yeah, I would ordinarily say no offense, but I hope to offend everybody who has ever worked at an executive level for F&W. They are no longer around. They are complete garbage. They ruined large swaths of the crafting industry in magazines and whatnot because, yes, I am on my soapbox. They ruined it. They are a bunch of Wall Street dudes who had no idea what they were investing in. It didn't like do what they expected lickety split. And so they were like, you know, I mean, it was like an acquisition-a-thon, I guess, and it didn't do what they wanted. Anytime you've got that, like, those investor companies of the 20 teens, well, really probably since the 80s, honestly, but yeah, they were hot garbage. They basically bought out Interweave, and Interweave had like a really great group of magazines, Fons and Porter included in there, Quilters Newsletter magazine. There was a quilting. Trying to remember, it was like art quilting arts. I think it was quilting arts. It was more of like modern quilting stuff. A bunch of other titles like spinning, and they had Piecework. Luckily, Piecework got rescued by the original founders of Piecework. They came in, and I think I've mentioned this before. They created a company to get Piecework away from F&W. I mean, and then F&W crumbled, and everything got sold to somebody else who just pooped all over it. So, no offense. No, I'm not going to say it. I offend. I mean to offend. um, I'll step off my soapbox now, but this is from the era when Quilters Newsletter magazine was still to be respected, still being, hey, Word Bird Nerd. So yeah, it was still the days when Quilters Newsletter magazine was being taken care of and not being, pooped on by a bunch of Wall Street dudes. So we're gonna look at that. And if we have time, I didn't take a picture of every single page. I just mostly the quilts. But if we have time, I'll read kind of an interesting article in here that I'm interested in. So doing a little double duty, show and tell for you guys, and a little bit of research for me. So let me share my screen. So, like I said, this is January, February 1991, and Quilters Newsletter magazine, they published 10 to 11 issues a year. Hey, Kate. Oh, my goodness, no, I do not have all of them. I only have a small slice of them. Yeah, and they take up a huge, like, they take up an entire shelf of my industrial shelving. And I have like, I think the earliest one I have is like 1970 or 71. And then I think my latest one, I personally have one or two that I bought in the 20 teens, but I think for the most part, the ones that I've either liberated from my mother's house or just people have gifted to me, I think I've kind of ended in the mid 90s, like maybe 1995, 97. Yeah. So Word and Bird Nerd, loved the magazine and had tons of them. Finally tossed them out years ago. Yep. January 91, you were a new mom, but you were a subscriber. Okay, so maybe this will bring back some memories. If you had a subscription then. And yeah, I know what you mean. I have a whole bunch of magazines, I'm sure, that I either threw out into the recycling or I had a whole bunch of stuff I sold on eBay a long time ago, like Sassy Magazine. Um, I'd have to say Sassy Magazine you're only going to know it if you had a daughter growing up in the 80s, 90s, or if you yourself were a teenager growing up in the 80s, 90s. It had kind of a short run, but it was a competitor of like Teen Magazine, like the teen magazines, and it was for the girls that were a little bit more edgy and the girls that read like Teen and Teen Cosmo and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I feel your pain. I mean, today, like, well, I don't know. Quilter's newsletter had, I think, for the most of, like, I would say probably from the 80s on, had pretty high subscriber numbers, and so you can usually pick them up. Not terribly expensive. The ones for the 70s are harder to find, and I have yet to come across the really early ones, like issue number 1. I don't even know if I've ever come across issue number 1 online, like for sale. Maybe I have. I don't know. But typically those are the ones that cost a little more money. And it's been a while since I've seen any. So in any event, one day, somebody once told me they had all of them. And I don't know what that meant. Like, did that mean like up to 2016 when they stopped publishing? I don't know. And I was kind of like, oh, are you interested in sharing? I didn't hear back. So anyway, let us look at this gorgeous, gorgeous quilt. I love this. It is a Star of Bethlehem style star and these glorious peacocks, and then this kind of cute little house and trees. And I mean, there's like elements of this quilt that reminds me of a whole bunch of older quilts. And let me find the info about this quilt. So this is a contemporary quilt. But there's things in here that just so remind me, and I'm assuming, well, we haven't read it yet, but I'm going to assume that the maker definitely referenced lots of old quilts. When you see this is almost like a wig rose kind of thing. I don't think this is a kit. No. I think that she's done this on her own. In fact, it's an award winner. So, but yeah, I see so many exciting things in here that are definitely from old quilts. So it is called Peacocks. Big surprise, right? It's 82 by 82 inches. It was made in 1990, and it was made by Dixie McBride of Eureka, California. Dixie's quilt won first place in the Artisan Appliqué Division and Best of Show Artisan in the members judged show, Quilts A World of Beauty, of the American International Quilt Association at Houston's Quilt Festival in November. So the prior, so November 90, she won this award. An article about the festival begins on page 11. We probably will not get a chance to read that. But she also mentions Dixie's quilt also won first place and Judges' Choice Awards at Silver Dollar City in Missouri last summer. And the photo is by Jerry DeFelice. Silver Dollar City in Missouri, I don't know what that is. Do you guys know? Was it like obviously some kind of competition, but like, is it a quilt competition? Is it some kind of fair? I'm not familiar with that. Silver Dollar City in Missouri. So, my goodness, I just love it. And Padma, I get where you're coming from with like, wondering if it's a kit, because some aspects of it, like these flowers, you'll often see in these sort of 1970s, 1960s, mostly 70s, kit quilts. And then some of the newspaper quilts, and earlier kit quilts, you know, like my quilt behind me is a newspaper quilt, but it's like very simplified. Silver Dollar City. Oh, an amusement park. Okay, so then it became Dollywood in Tennessee. Okay, interesting. So they must have had some sort of show or thing there with quilts. That's interesting. All right. Well, let's move along. You guys, this one kind of I this is actually an advertisement, and I've just zoomed in on this one picture. And the advertisement is for, so this is Quilts and Other Comforts, Wheat Ridge, Colorado, which I think Quilts and Other Comforts was the Lehman's, I think, right? Yeah, I think so. I'm blanking right now, but yeah, I think Quilts and Other Comforts was the Lehman's um, mail order quilt. I don't know that it was. I don't think it was ever a brick and mortar. I think it's just a mail order supplies. But this right here, my mom had a pattern for particularly this. These two don't look familiar to me. These two do. And I realize they're very simple, but this color placement, I'm almost positive those are my mom's. And she made them as little wall hangings and as pillow, like little small pillows. I'm gonna have to talk to her about this. Now I could be totally wrong, but I can picture this one, this like cross snowball one sort of thing. I'm not sure what pattern that is. But I can picture that like literally in her living room right now. She had a little bit of a kerfuffle probably around this time with somebody, like there was some copyright issues. And when I saw this, I was like, gasp. So I'm gonna have to ask my mom about this. But these would have had these gorgeous reproduction shirtings and these lovely, you know, reproduction dress patterns from the 19th century. Oh my goodness. Okay. Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri is an acclaimed 1880s themed park nestled in the Ozark Mountains, open from March through December. And inside Silver Dollar City, there is a quilt store. Ha! I never would have guessed. $95 a day. Them's Disney prices. Yeah, all of the roller coasters in the world. I don't know that I could spend $95 a day. Yeah, I haven't been to an amusement park in, oh gosh, probably since my son was maybe 12 or 13. So that's like 15 years ago. We went to Six Flags. I wonder how much it costs to go to those places now. Okay, this one, I loved this. This was so fun. So this is, like I said, mostly I'm just focusing on the quilts in here. This one is called The Red House Coat, a self-portrait, 62 by 58 inches by Carol Ann Wadley of Hillsboro, Oregon, made in 1990. I just love this. You know, I mean, like, how many of us are like, flop down on the couch with your cat to take a little nap? Totally. I absolutely, as soon as I saw this, like, you're like, you can relate to it. I have a frame of reference for this. I have certainly taken a nap in my PJs or my lounge around clothes on my couch with my cat. And I love the couch, like the fabric she's used here. It looks like this. It looks like yarn, like a yarn dyed woven, but it's got these butterflies on it. I wonder if they're like some kind of embroidery or if she's like they're stamped on there. I'm not sure, but it makes a really cool couch. And the way she's pieced it, you could like literally see the cushions. I love that. So charming. Okay, this next section, let's see what so these are all so what all of this is are just quilts I think that people have You know, they're featuring these different showcases and exhibits. And I think some of these are probably people that have been or events that have been showcased multiple times over the years. How'd she do the eyeglasses? Oh, let me flip back and see. Huh. Well, it's not obviously super clear, but it seems to me like, I wonder if she painted, or, I suspect that she might have had some type of fabric paint involved here, because, it just occurred to me what I'm saying, these butterflies on the couch. I just realized they're on the wall in this, like, I guess, quilt or supposed to be a painting or a quilt or something behind her. So I'm guessing maybe fabric paint was involved. It doesn't say, what type of, if there's any multimedia here, but my guess is it's probably like a light colored or like a white fabric or a off-white fabric that she painted. Stencils, yeah, possibly. Seems like yeah, it seems like she probably used some type of medium, and I would guess that's what she did with the glasses. And I wonder what she looks like. I wonder if she has this, like, cropped hair. And yeah, definitely it could be stencils for sure. Okay. So I apologize for the lighting on some of these. I was trying to avoid the glare. It is very overcast, and I was trying to get a good, like, some good diffused light, and I just, everywhere I took this magazine to take pictures, I got glare. So I finally, like, was holding some fabric up, and so then it, you know, gets it all dark and muddy looking. So you can't win. um so this, and what I was gonna say is some of these quilts are so very 1990s. Like, everything I remember seeing in the 90s, like, of course my mom is doing, throughout the late 80s and early 90s, she's doing stuff with, like, Amish reproduction things, and, like, very primitive reproductions. And at this point, so February of 91, I'm still in high school, but I'm applying to college, applying to art school, and looking at stuff like this. I had, the summer before this, I had done a summer arts program at the university I ended up attending. So I'd already been kind of exposed to sort of this stuff, and this was definitely, like, in my sort of peripheral vision. I did not see myself getting involved with textiles at that point, because that was a thing my mom did. But I was well aware of this stuff. So this is called Gateway to the South. It is 180 by 84 inches. It is by Elizabeth A. Bush. It was made in 1990. And it says, this commissioned quilt was recently installed in the Delta terminal of the Fort Lauderdale International Airport in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Elizabeth, who is one of a growing number of quilt makers doing large-scale commissioned quilts for public spaces, says her quilts are about everyday things. The imagery is fragmented and unfocused. I do not see any one image, but a total impression of time and place. So that's interesting. And I'm wondering, like, I've flown into this airport before. I mean, I have no idea if I remember ever seeing anything like this there. But yeah, I don't know. We're in Bird Nerd. I know you're down there in Florida. I don't know if you ever deal with Fort Lauderdale. I think you're in a different part of Florida, but yeah, I wonder if this is still there. Seems like a really long time, though, that they probably replaced it. So this one is called Night Mask. 55 by 75 by Marjorie Claybrook of Augusta, Georgia. This quilt will be shown in the Southern Quilts, a new view exhibit at the Southern Highland Handicrafts Guild Folk Art Center in Asheville, North Carolina, January 12th through April 7th. That is a long name. Southern Highland Handicrafts Guild Folk Art Center. Whew. Not been through Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. I guess it's a much smaller airport, I guess, right? Well, I hope they are still showing some quilts. That's an interesting. Here's a question. Here's a very interesting question. So for these types of big showcase, like doctors' offices, medical centers, hospitals, airports, corporate, spaces. Um, I mean, every few, I'm going to say there's some that probably never change anything. But I would say like at least every. It is still at the airport. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Well, good for her. So this is still at the airport. But I wonder, because I think about like Baltimore, BWI here in Baltimore, Baltimore Washington Airport is, I mean, we've had all this like work done on it over the years, and there have been parts that they've torn down and, put other things up and made new corridors and stuff. And I think about, I mean, we have art on those corridors, but I feel like there was stuff there before that I don't remember seeing like replaced or put somewhere else. So I kind of wonder. I know with in a corporate setting, if they have an art collection, there might be a curator or somebody that manages that. But in places like airports and hospitals and things like that, I assume that maybe some of those places might have like an art management company or a curator or somebody that deals with that. But I'm just wondering, like, if they were to do like some big restoration and change the space where a particular quilt was hanging, what do they do with them? What do you think they would do with those things? Did they, I mean, they wouldn't give it back to the maker. Um ah, this is a much better picture. That's better than even what's here in the magazine. Oh wow. Interesting. Yeah, I like this view of it much better than what's in the magazine. It's very simple, but it definitely has this, like, I don't know. I feel like it's got this aviation kind of feel to it. Awesome. Thanks for finding that word, Bernard. I love it. All right. This one's terrible. Sorry, guys. So this says presentation album quilt 101 by 101 inches, made by 26 students and staff members at the Quilted Apple in Phoenix, Arizona, as a friendship quilt for their teacher and shop owner, Lorene Cinema. Quilted by Ruth Umble and Naomi Yoder, 1990. And let's see, there's a news item in here about it that let's see. So the quilting itself took nearly 1,000 hours. Oh my gosh, 1,000 hours. That's insane. Today the quilt hangs in Lorene's living room. So of course this was 1991, but this is gorgeous. And I wonder, some of these things I 100% recognize from Baltimore album quilts that we've looked at. I'm assuming you guys should too, particularly our one of our Eagle friends. This isn't the one I'm obsessed with, but it's one of them. Definitely this basket. That's like that is like a Mary Simon basket if I ever saw it. And then this also. I think this one definitely is common. This is interesting. This is definitely not something that I've seen exactly like this. It seems like very, almost like mid-century, the way this cornucopia looks and the bird, right? That's interesting. This one too. Very kind of simplified decorative art, sort of. Oh my goodness. Look at this quilting though. You can see that lyre quilted in there. All of these feathers. My goodness. Yeah, I could see that taking I could see that taking 1,000 hours. Right? Yeah, very stylized. Yeah, definitely. Oh, I love it. It's a very cool quilt. All right, what is next? Oh, these are more very 1990s quilts. I had a professor named Julia that I had to do a double take when I saw these because at first I thought these might be her work because she made stuff that looked a lot like this, but it's not. It's not her work. Um, it appears that in trying to keep the glare off, I also got some bad bad resolution here, but hopefully you can see kind of what these quilts look like. So this one here on the right is called It's a Wonderful Life, a rubber stamp quilt. 55 by 69 inches by Danita Rafalovich of Los Angeles, California, 1989. This quilt can be seen in the New Pieces February exhibit. Two Danitas, a one-woman show of Danita's quilts reflecting her love of things Japanese and her rubber stamp quilt art. So apparently she must have an I mean, I can tell you the resolution I know is horrible and I'm really sorry. It's not that great in the magazine either. But it looks like each one of these little blocks, um, she's done the technique, so that it looks like um, a box with all of these little um, holes in it, little spaces in it. And with inserts apparently coming out or the little boxes themselves coming out. That's fun. But it looks like she has stamped one image in each one of these. And it's honestly hard to tell what some of them are, but they look like the stamps that you would buy in a craft store. They don't look like anything that's like super specific to the quilt. So this one I really like. I think this one's fun. This is just called Study Number 2 by Claire Murray of Canton, Ohio, 1991. But I don't know. This kind of reminds me of like, what's through those doors? Like, are we in Italy? Is this like a, you know, Santorini? I don't know. Okay. And then this, oh, good grief. It's so blurry. This is called Artificial Environment number 3. 62 by 68 inches, also by Claire M. Murray, 1990. Both this quilt and the previous one will be shown in an exhibit, Recent Quilts by Claire M. Murray, at the Columbus Cultural Arts Center in Columbus, Ohio, January 7th through the 31st. Yeah, window or door type quilts. That's right, Padma. That I'm sorry, word nerd. Yeah, I mean this was really popular. This kind of thing was very popular, in the well, I want to say it was the late 70s. I originally saw a version of this, and oh gosh, I'm trying to think if it was a Georgia Bone Steel. It's in a book I have, and I bought a quilt top that was made out of Concord VIP fabrics, and so very polyestery, the borders. But I have it in my stock. It will be quilted one day, but it is identical to the one that I found in the book. I'm pretty sure it's Georgia Bone Steel. I'll have to dig that out and find out who it is. I'm certain I've shown it to you guys before. Oh, I love this. So I feel like we've seen this quilter before, but I did not check to see who this is. Yes, I'm pretty sure we've seen this quilter before in Quilter's newsletter. So this is called High Tech Tucks. And I remember specifically she hand dyes all this fabric, and these are like flanges that she stitches down, and then she turns the fabric to either side. So they're like I mean, if you think about like garment, like heirloom garment sewing, where you take like pin tucks, that's kind of what this is. And then, she flattens the tuck to one side or the other to create this like shimmery sort of wavy look. It's very cool. It's very striking. So high tech tucks number 21. So she made a lot of these. 65 by 49 inches by Carol Breyer Fowlert of Oswego, Illinois, 1990. This quilt, one of Carol's series of quilts in which three-dimensional constructed tucks are incorporated into a patterned background, won first place in its category in the Master Division at AIQA's show at Quilt Festival in November, and has received preliminary acceptance for Quilt National 1991. So, yeah, Carol Breyer Fowlert. I knew I'd seen her name before. I'm trying to think. I know we looked at a quilt very similar to this one, certainly from this series she was doing. And now I can't remember if it was another issue of Quilter's Newsletter or if it was in a book. But I just really love this. And it's just very painterly. It looks just like modern art. I feel like you could put this right in a, modern art wing of a museum, and from a distance, people wouldn't know that it was a quilt. Mary may have shown it. Yeah, that's a possibility. But I feel like it was pretty recently that I saw some Carol Fowler stuff. Okay. So these, here on the left-hand side, this one. Moonlight Mountain Reflections, 40 inches by 28 inches by Carolyn Balcombe of Sterling, Virginia, 1991. This quilt was the Purchase Award winner at the Continental Quilting Congress in Vienna. And the CQC, my mom was involved in some of those. I don't know if it was 1990 or not. I know there was one thing, it was a Virginia Consortium of Quilters exhibit, I think, at the Continental Quilting Congress, where she had to go pick up a quilt, and I can't remember who made it, but it was like from the Mary Washington, like a Mary Washington collection from Kenmore or something like that. And she and another person had to transport this quilt, and she said she was so afraid that, like, they were going to get abducted by aliens or something. she was going to be in trouble for something happening to the quilt. She was so upset. She still talks about it today. Okay. This one here on the right is called Moonflowers. It is 38 by 50 inches by Linda M. Lobianco of South Elgin, Illinois, made in 1989. And then the one here with the people is called Technoids. 37 by 29 inches by Judy Ann Walter of Chicago, Illinois, 1989. And it says both of these quilts are included in Facet's touring exhibit, Personal Landscapes, which will be at the Samuel K. Fox Museum in Dillingham, Arkansas, from January 15th to February 15th. The work of 15 quilt makers will be shown. So it looks like there's a lot of quilt shows, like little galleries and little museums and things. On this time period. Okay. So if we have time, I'll come back to this. But who was Nancy Cabot? Indeed. This is an article by Barbara Brackman. And we've got some examples of Nancy Cabot stuff. Of course, Nancy Cabot was one of the newspaper quilt columnists. Nancy Cabot was not her real name. They created these fake personas, and I don't know why. I mean, some of these women were their names were just as ordinary or interesting. But for whatever, I guess they probably did it so that, they could just swap people out. It didn't have to always be the same person writing. So they just create this fake name, I guess. Okay. Hearts of Flutter. I'm sorry this one did not photograph better. Looks like there was also a piece of fuzz that I dropped on top of it. I thought this was very sweet quilt, kind of modern looking, you know, like modern as in today modern. Although I don't think you'd see anything like this with hearts per se at QuiltCon. It's got kind of a vibe to me that, you know, if it was some other shape, I could definitely see like, you know, very QuiltCon looking. And I think the hearts that are in the border, this is interesting. So these are just plain old hearts. But these hearts in the border consist of 3 stacked hearts. I don't know if you could see the gradation there, but it's definitely 3 stacked hearts. And I'm wondering why the designer chose to do just the borders like that. I don't know. So Quilt San Diego, this was something, so it's called, there's a 4-day exhibit in 1987 in Fallbrook, California. And so at 87, it was called Visions, Quilts of a New Decade. It was a 4-day exhibit. Only 4 days. Yeah, that's so interesting to me because like today, I can't, I mean, other than say like a, you know, like your quilt shows, you know, the kind where the guilds, you know, put on a show, like the Lancaster Lebanon Quilt Show that happens up in Pennsylvania. Um, I'm trying to think, like, I mean, they're guild shows typically. They're meant to benefit the community. It may be one guild or it may be a group of guilds. So like Lancaster Lebanon is like all of the southeastern Pennsylvania guilds, and I think a couple that are in northern Maryland kind of, or may have exhibited in there too last time I went. So that's what this sounds like kind of, but it seems like it became something bigger. Maybe, I'm not sure. If not, it's interesting. I just think it's so interesting to have such short exhibits. I don't know, I'm just not used to that, you know? So this says it grew to be in 1990 a 2-month-long event guided by 20 chairmen and staffed by more than 300 volunteers from 11 quilt guilds. This is huge. More than 22,000 people viewed the juried quilts, plus 42 historic quilts from the California Heritage Project at the spacious Museum of San Diego History in Balboa Park. So I've been to Balboa Park. I did not go to the San Diego History Museum, though. Very interesting. So these ladies are Arlene Stamper is here on the left. She's the president of Quilt San Diego and Visions. Co-chair Lynn Johnson, vice president of Quilt San Diego and Visions, and co-chair Patty Smith, Visions promotions director. And then here's some snapshots of the museum. Looks like it was a really nice show. But I mean, to me, like looking at this is not what you see as like a guild show. This is like at a museum. So it's interesting to me that they go from this kind of guild show to this this bigger thing. Pretty cool. These are very cool quilts. So the top one is called, oh gosh, Koinonia Garden. I'm saying that right. 94 by 62 inches, was pieced for Arlene Stamper by members of the Tuesday group and quilted by Arlene. And it was included in the 1990 Visions show. And I want to say I have a Visions catalog from, so I must have something from this era. I'll have to see if I can find that at some point. Let's see. This one here on the left is called Prism Puzzle, 54 by 54 inches. And on the right is called Queen of Hearts, 66 by 66 inches. Both of these bottom quilts were made by Lynn Johnson and included in the 87 exhibit of Visions. So these are really great. These two especially. But you know, they also, all three of these also have kind of vintage or antique vibes too. I mean, you could kind of see aspects of things. I mean, this is based on a courthouse steps. This prism one. This one, I mean, it looks like game pieces to me. It looks like checkers. But, you know, these stars in there, I mean, that's a like traditional star shape block. And these are just economy blocks. And this one, it's a Carolina lily um, variation, I guess. I love what they did with the gradation of the colors in this ribbon around the border. Very neat. And I love what they did here with the baskets, or the vessel that the lilies are in, and how it comes together to form these other blocks, I guess. All right. Okay. So here are some of the patterns that are in the magazine. Oh, and I was getting such a bad glare. I'm sorry that this is really dark across the top, but this is called Surface Study 2. And this is very striking, and lots of flying geese, obviously. um, and then this center block is like an economy block. I can't remember. It's square and a square, I guess, is the other name for this. The more, I think economy block is a more recent name for it. It's square and a square is like the historical name, I think. But yeah, this is very striking. Whenever I see quilts like this, especially this color combination, it always reminds me of like Pendleton blankets, or the Native American robes that were like essentially wool blankets. That's what this reminds me of. It's very pretty. And quick and easy, according to Quilter's Newsletter magazine. So this one is for Sylvia. This is another interesting one. Yeah. I mean, this repetition of this very simple shape is what creates, you know, and then this gradation of colors. That was also a very 1990s thing, y'all. I mean, don't you think? Gradation of colors, going, you know, the rainbow. Dyeing was so popular. And I know, so this is 1991. By 93, 94, I was in textile classes, and we did gradation dyeing, where, you know, you had to go from like the lightest, palest color all the way up to, you know, this most intense version of the color. And this is what quilters were doing. Definitely the ones that were, you know, wanting to dye their own fabrics because they couldn't find what they wanted. Or they wanted surface treatment that, you know, you just couldn't buy fabric that looked like that. Like, I think about the grunge fabric. If you guys, for those of you that are makers and have seen that line, I can't remember who makes it. Basic Gray, I think, was the company. The guy, his wife is also a designer. But anyway, Basic Gray, grunge, like, you know, those types of fabrics. You could buy that stuff now, but back then you couldn't, and people made their own. I don't know what you call this block. Does it say? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't specify. One interesting thing I've noticed here, though, I think, is that the binding is also sort of graded, color gradation in the binding, so that it's more blue here and it's more of this dark sort of maroony brown down here. And by the way, these are both patterns of Adrienne Rothschild of Baltimore, Maryland. I do not know her. I don't know if she still is here. But I think she's very talented. But yeah, this is like definitely the kind of stuff that I remember seeing in the 90s. Okay. So this one here is called Valentine, 76 by 66 and 3/4 inches by Inga Huber. This quilt was the only European participant in a Quilt San Diego's Vision show. This one here on the right is called Shack Vision or Chess Vision, 43.5 by 69.25 by Erica Odemer. Erica used silk cotton and polished cotton in this quilt, which started as the black and white pattern of a chessboard. Then she added blues. So I apologize again. This is one I got. It just turned out way too dark as I was trying to keep the glare off of it. But I don't see, gosh. I mean, this looks like sort of checkerboard fabric, but I don't see, I mean, she's very much deconstructed the checkerboard. This actually reminds me of a friend who, a painter who made stuff very much like this. And then this one up here, which even covering it, I still get glare. I should have left the glare in, and at least the rest of the quilts would have looked decent. So this one's called Summer Garden, 46 inches by 90 inches by Susan Bartels. That's another name I recognize. It's been included in the Fabric Gardens show that will tour the U.S. in 1991. That one looks fun too. Almost like, sort of like organic crazy quilting. Like there's no hard straight lines here. But it's very flowery looking. Reminds me of like azaleas, kind of. Okay. So this one, very cool. I love that. It's very, I don't know, reminds me of like a print, like a block print. And it is called Verständigung, or German word for communication, is what it says. 65 by 50 inches by Cordula Hartung, who lives in the eastern part of Germany. 1991. The wall was down, right? Yeah. So that's interesting. Think about that. When I showed you guys pictures from Birmingham, remember the Ukrainian quilters? I feel like East Germany and the Eastern Bloc countries, I don't think there was a whole lot of quilters coming out of there, but I do think there were some. I'm kind of wondering, what did we see at that point coming out of those former Soviet Union states? Okay, so the one on the right is called Verflochten or Interlace. 30 3/4 by 42 3/4 by Bridget. Okay. I don't know how you pronounce her last name because it's using one of those weird letters that doesn't appear in English. Might need help there, Druid. So Bridget was inspired by her hand-dyed fabrics with frayed edges. So it's kind of hard to tell here. I can't really even tell in the magazine picture. That's very blurry, but it looks like this, looks like the fabric through here. It's her last name, Druid. It's F-I, and then I don't know what looks like a funky bee. A Pennsylvania Dutch bee. I'm sorry, Germans. I don't understand your alphabet. But this looks like tie-dyed fabric in here. Ah, that last letter is pronounced like an S. Okay, so Bridget Fiss. Interesting. I learned something new. The weird German bee-looking thing is pronounced like an S. Did you guys know this? If you didn't, you too have learned. So, Fiss. But like I said, this looks like this, I mean, hand dyed, but this looks like she's done like either shibori or some tie dyeing here. Obviously, this is like, gosh, I would even say that this is kind of like sort of like a dunk or drip dried or kind of like scrunched up. It doesn't appear as like strong as ice dyeing. I don't know that people were doing a whole lot of ice. I feel like ice dyeing is more of like a 2000 and later. I could be wrong though, but I feel like when I was learning dyeing and I took a whole unit on dyeing fabric, we did like scrunching and like shibori techniques and um that sort of thing. So I don't know. Not sure how she did this, but obviously hand dyed for sure. This one I love. This I mean it's this complicated repeat. Um and it's called Farbspiel Game with Colors. Ah, okay. It's a double S. Ah, so you know what? I guess is it like a derivation of if you guys know like that the funky lettering of Old English and how if you have an S in the middle of a word, it ends up looking like an F. It's that kind of thing. And I'm very terrible at reading Old English as well. Okay. So, Game with Colors, 71 by 96 inches by Schnuppe von Gwinner. Oh my gosh, Kate. I don't know if you're still there, but Kate just showed me a book the other day by Schnuppe von Gwinner. And I had never heard of her before. I'm assuming it's a her. I'd never heard of Schnuppe von Gwinner before. And now look at this. Here's one of her quilts. Farb is color, Spiel is game. That is wild. That's so funny. I mean, that's a name that you don't forget. um, oh, hey, Marianne. That is so interesting. I'm very excited to see this book. She's holding on to it for me. Okay, so and then this one here on the right is Industry Landscape, 40 inches by 46.5 inches by Ilse Greininger. Ilse's quilts are fine examples of architectural quilts with three-dimensional illusions. So I think they just mean, you know, these look like columns and staircases and things. Oh, I'm so fascinated by this. Schnuppe von Gwinner. Now, the question is, like, what is the block? It looks like, oh, it looks like, I think this is the block here. No, they're two different blocks. This, right? And then this. I don't know if you can see my cursor, the little hand. Puffin heads. Yeah, I did think it looks like some kind of bird, like some kind of thing. But I really like this. It really stood out to me as I was taking the pictures, but I didn't look to see. Very exciting. Schnuppe von Gwinner. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right. And hopefully it's a she. I don't, is Schnuppe a female name? I assume it is. Okay, International Quilt Game. Ugh, these came out terrible because they're pretty dark in the magazine. So this is Emerald Stars by Sally Cameron. And this is Through the Pines by Georgellen Mickelson. Or Michelson. Okay, this page was better. So here at the top, which I really like this one. This looks like a peace dove maybe and hands, shaking hands. Okay, so this is Tangram by Ute M. Tassik of Germany. This one is Peace by Ruth von Bergen of Switzerland. Um, this one is Ohio Star. Oh, I'm sorry, Ohio Star Rhapsody by Kathleen McFeely. And then here on the bottom is Storm at Sea Variation by Doreen Speckman of the United States. Yep. Some of these people are German and some are US. Ruth von Bergen was Switzerland. Let's see. Storm at Sea Variation. And then actually I do love Red by Renata Bayar. Okay. There's no red in there. Unless she means that. I guess that's red. Interesting. Okay. It's a cool quilt. I really like the fabrics. But it's an interesting name, right? Ah, Birkenau means mountains. I didn't know that. I'm learning some German things today. Okay. So this was a series quilt. And I think this is the second to the last step. I think I noticed that it said the next month will be, the next month is the quilt assembly and the quilting designs. But look, what a fun quilt this is. I really like this. I love birds. And oh, let me move my camera so you can see this better. But look at this. Aren't these fun? These birds, and then this I mean, these are half square triangles, I think. Yeah, even the ones that look like parallelograms are half square triangles. But it definitely looks like they're kind of in this leafy sort of environment. I love that. Okay, so this, I think this is Adrienne Rothschild again. This one was really cool. You know, color gradation. Yeah, so this is Adrienne Rothschild. Again, she's from Baltimore. Yeah, I don't know her. Baltimore's a small town, but they call it Smaltimore, but I don't know everybody here. I really like the colors in this. It's very interesting, this little tulip-like thing. It has kind of this old, like, you know, an older feel, you know, or vintage feel, whereas this sort of stacked look of, you know, pieces. I don't know. It almost looks like pieces of paper or fabric kind of floating down. That's very, very modern. So what it says here, so this is Desert Blooms. Oh, okay. So they're like, I guess they're like a desert flower. 88 by 88 inches, made in 1989, machine pieced and hand quilted. This quilt was included in the 1990 Quilters Heritage Celebration in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Adrienne says, as for the story about Desert Blooms, there isn't one. It's just an idea that derived from some old doodles on the log cabin theme and my favorite earth tones. While fabric shopping one day, I couldn't resist the background fabric in that luminous pearly pink. I think it looks great in this quilt. Oh, she has a piece in the Baltimore Museum of Art. Very cool. Doesn't surprise me. She's very talented. Yeah. Okay, so this is loosely based on I would have not have I mean, even though I see her point, I wouldn't have immediately thought, you know, loosely based in log cabins, but I see what she's done now, and I like this. I love this color gradation. She's right. This color back here, I feel like it photographs more lilac, but it's very pretty. Ooh. So here at the top, we've got Star Lattice 2. So that's this. 90 by 90 inches, 1988, machine pieced and hand quilted. And then below here, this one is called Here Comes the Sun, 41 by 41 inches, 1986, machine pieced and hand quilted. Then this one is called Silver Rainbow, 89 by 95 inches, 1988. And wow, I gotta tell you guys, QuiltCon, I feel like when I go to QuiltCon, a lot of the quilters there, I think they have invented what they do. And I really hate to burst their bubble, but this kind of thing, this is their, like, modern quilters are the legacy of these quilters. These quilters did it all first. I mean, this is very studio art quilting, feel. And I mean, really, they're just flying geese. And she has very carefully plotted out how, this color gradation. And I say just in a way that, I mean, it's like just a simple unit, not saying that it's just as an easy, because this no doubt took a lot of planning. And she's a very competent quilter. I can see these points look good based on this picture. So I like that one too. It's funny because I can see, like, I've got the magazine, I'm looking at the picture on my quilt, and I'm also looking at the preview that you guys are seeing. And the preview that you guys are seeing, the quilt almost like kind of, it has this like sense of like vibration. Very neato. I like that. Okay. This one at the top. So this one is called Autumn. Big surprise. Some autumn colors. 90 by 90, made in 1987, machine pieced and hand quilted. It looks like she pretty much machine pieces and hand quilts. So this one here on the left is Floating Diamonds. 90 by 90 inches, 1988. And this one, looks like I cut it off a little bit. This one's called Indian Eyes Surface Study 3. 50 by 50 inches, 1987. This one, going back to the pattern that is based on her work. Oh, I see I'm in the way again. Scoot over. This seems very much like this example of let go. This, yeah, Surface Study 2. So yeah, you can see she's noodling around with these very similar blocks. Okay. So this was a contest, I think. So this is called Niobrara Star. That is a very complex star. Just based on what I can see, I don't think there are any Y seams in that. Based on how I think one would construct it. All right, so let's imagine we start with here. So that's 2 triangles pieced together. Then create these 2 together, piece those here. then this piece, right? And then connect it to another unit. It's like that. And then you would have created this unit here out of these three different pieces. And then you're just sewing them on either side. That's kind of brilliant. Um, this doesn't necessarily appeal to me visually. It might be the colors, this pink and or gold and blue. They were my high school colors. I don't necessarily love those colors, but that's a pretty brilliant design. No why there's no Y seams there, even though it looks like there should be. Aw. Very good job, Shelly Burge of Lincoln, Nebraska. So it is named for a river in Nebraska, the Niobrara. This was fun. So we mentioned quilt coats the other day. Jill and I were talking Stitch and Glitch, and I think she showed pictures. I think she showed pictures of 2 quilts that she has sold that were destined to become coats. Antique quilts destined to become coats. I love this because this is an example of making your own quilted garment, not cutting up somebody else's work. That I thought these were really fun. So this is a 1991 Fairfield Concord fashion show. So Fairfield, of course, being batting and like stuffing, toy stuffing, and Concord, of course, being a fabric company. So Fairfield Concord. And so look at this. Oh my gosh. People would go wild at QuiltCon for this. Look at that. Raccoon right there on the inside of her jacket. And it looks like the outside is pretty sort of not abstract, but like a very blocky, sort of pixelated kind of look. I mean, obviously this is sky, these are birds. But yeah, this inside is pretty cool. This one is really fun. Some sort of flowers. Oh my goodness, look at these. This looks like it's got some looks like kind of smocking-ish sort of treatment. This is very modern, obviously. That's pretty fancy. This one I did notice as I was taking the pictures, and I apologize, I got some glare. This, I don't know what the lining is. It looks shiny. But this looks like a giant, scrappy, modern looking sort of quilt with this shiny backing. And then look at this lady's pants. Can you see what her pants are? They're printed with switchblades. I love it. I'm like, first of all, I want this coat or whatever it is. I mean, I guess it's got sleeves. It's like a cocoon coat, I guess. That seems to be, but yeah. Oh, you know what? And it looks like maybe she's wearing like a jumpsuit or something now that I look up here, because I can see the knives up here too. So I wonder if it's like a jumpsuit or if it's a top and matching pants. Oh my gosh. What I wouldn't do today for some fabric with switchblades on it. How cool. I didn't give the attributions for these. So on this page, this one right here on the left is Bog Coat Goes to a Party by Virginia Avery. Pattern is an original design, Bog Coat, Vogue 7360. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. No, she did not design this for Vogue. I'm sorry. I'm reading this wrong. So the pattern for the coat itself is an original design. Okay, wait a minute. I think they have the captions messed up because This is the bog coat, I think. And this is considered the lilies. You guys think that makes sense? Ah, you're looking for a good pattern with a zipper. I hear you, Marianne. I recently bought a little jacket pattern, like a vintage one from the 80s. Um, I have no idea what I want it to look like, though. I have so much fabric hoarded, you know? Yeah, as I'm looking at this, I think that they have the captions switched. So I think this is Bog Coat Goes to a Party by Virginia Avery. Um, and then this is Consider the Lilies. Because those are lilies, right? By Judy Riley. Yeah, I think I'm right about that. Over here, so the first one, this is Aztec Cowgirl by Colleen Walters. This one is Guardian of the Enchanted Diamonds by Sherry Dawn Roberts. The Turquoise Ensemble is And Then There Are Emeralds by Barbara Smith Huggins. And then this at the top is with a cool switchblade pants. Is Forget Diamonds by Elaine Ann Spence. So let's see. It says here, the coat is Vogue 7136. It is a jumpsuit. Oh, so the jumpsuits, it says jumpsuit fabric, stardust, and nylon organdy by Rose Bar Fabrics. Country cottons by Concord. Cottons by Hoffman and Alexander Henry and Rayon Shalley. I bet this is like an Alexander Henry. I feel like Alexander Henry's got some funky stuff like that over the years. I could be wrong, but man, that fabric's cool. Okay. So this is your standard signature quilt type of arrangement. Let's see. So what they say here. So the Piedmont Quilters Guild members of Greensboro, North Carolina made this quilt in honor of their 10th anniversary in September of 1989. Whenever the group has an official function now, this quilt is displayed along with the quilt banner. I'm sorry, the guild banner. But this is a pretty standard, like, old pattern. I think is this chimney sweep or friendship block? Alexander Henry clothes. I think I knew that, actually. But they always had the really funky stuff. Was Alexander Henry the one that made or is it Michael Miller? I think it's Michael Miller, actually. I'm thinking of the Ghastlies. Do you guys know that I don't know who drew them, but they had, like, it was every season they'd come out with different ones. There was like the Ghastlies fashion show or something. Ghastlies, I think, at Halloween. There was a Ghastlies Christmas. They almost reminded me of like Addams Family sort of characters, but they were these sort of like wild drawings of these weird people. Okay, so you know it. Your sister collects them. Yeah, I have a few pieces that I've hoarded forever because they're very cool. I should make something out of those. I have too much hoarded pieces of fabric. But you can see one of the signatures here. So a very standard signature type block. And this I can see in my attempt to not get glare. I both got glare and blurry picture. Good job, Stephanie. Yeah. So what you have there on the left is Roses of Dijon by Marguerite. Let's see what her name is. Marguerite Honerkamp. This is actually very cool, and I apologize it's all blurry, but I think you get the gist of it. What's actually in focus right here are these sort of these roses, but it looks like stained glass. It's very cool. If I saw something like this today, I would wonder if it was AI, because it looks very, very cool. Yeah, Padma. I don't think that they're Edward Gorey, but they do look like Edward Gorey characters. They look exactly like Edward Gorey characters, but I don't think that they are his. He died in the 90s, I think, the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe. I want to visit his house. I believe it's in Massachusetts. I wonder if I could get Jill to take me by there. They're only open during particular seasons, though, but I think they should be open by now. Okay. So this is a Court Jester by Carol Schoaf. It received the second place Viewer's Choice Award in the Heritage Quilters of Huntsville Challenge. And then this one here, which is pretty cool. Surrounded Castle by Yvonne Matthews earned the award for best use of quilting in the HQH Challenge. This reminds me of Concord made like cheater's cloth with these sort of blocks. And I'm not saying that's what this is because I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure this is individually pieced. Maybe using some border fabric here. But yeah, they Concord or Fight VIP, one or the other. I think it was Concord, made medallion type cheater fabric like that. In fact, I think I have some. All right, I think this might be the last one. Yeah. Look at this little bear. Oh my gosh. I think it's kind of, it just says Bear Essentials by Kim Hamby, one of HQH's challenge winners. He's got the little honey pot up here, but he's not really like Pooh Bear, even though the honey pot. And then he's got this little quilt in his own quilt. And then this one, Giant Dahlia by Jeanette Kuhn. And I have seen a version of this at QuiltCon. I don't know who has either redesigned it or maybe there's a pattern out there. But for sure, I've definitely seen that out there at the shows and at QuiltCon. Well, that is it for this issue. I'd kind of like to read the Nancy Cabot article. So let's do that. Let me read the Nancy Cabot article and then we'll hopefully get a couple pages of patchwork in. I think I can do that. Right? All right, let's skip back here to the Nancy Cabot so we can look at those pages. Okay. Who was Nancy Cabot? By Barbara Brackman. So again, just as a reminder, I got to give credit where credit is due. This is from Quilters Newsletter Magazine, issue number 229, January, February 1991. This is an article, Who was Nancy Cabot, by Barbara Brackman. Around the beginning of the year 1933, as the craze for making quilts caught on throughout the country, the secretary to the Sunday editor of the Chicago Tribune predicted enough reader interest to warrant a feature on quilt patterns. So this is 1933. 26-year-old Loretta Isabel Leitner adopted the pen name Nancy Cabot and talked her boss into letting her organize a column that grew to be one of the most extensive sources of quilt designs in the 1930s, with more than 2,000 patterns. Initially, Nancy Cabot featured a different pattern each day in the society section of the newspaper, and in the Sunday column reviewed a week's worth of designs. The paper printed a sketch of each with a notation that one could buy the pattern for a nickel through the mail or at the Times-Tribune office in downtown Chicago. I'm sorry, the Tribune office in downtown Chicago. Where did I get Times from? The column was successful enough that it was quickly syndicated to other periodicals, including the New York Daily News, the St. Louis Globe Democrat, and at least 2 national magazines, Grit and Progressive Farmer. So Nancy Cabot got around. I knew I'd seen the name. I knew I'd seen the Nancy Cabot name outside of the newspapers, but I didn't realize it was Progressive Farmer. I think I probably saw it. The Nancy Cabot name appeared only in the Tribune. Oh, no, wait a minute. Oh, I'm wrong. The Nancy Cabot name appeared only in the Tribune. In the other publications, oh my gosh, I could have sworn I'd seen. Okay. In the other publications, names such as Hetty Winthrop, Betty Jones, and the Spinning Wheel were used. That's interesting. Who made the patterns? Well, for these, these seem to me that, these are new versions. And maybe she does say, but I think for the most part, some of these are just, they're just traditional patterns. And I don't know that they were ever attributed to anybody specifically, but we'll see. The same patterns were sold in pamphlets under the name Grandmother's Quilt Patterns, and collectors have discovered about 50 of these. So, here's the thing, like, this stuff, this content was created, and then it proliferated, and people stole it. There was never really, either they didn't have copyright on stuff, or the copyright laws were different back then. They didn't, you didn't have as long of a copyright as you do today. So, particularly in this world, I can tell you, not a lot of credit was given. And in fact, we look at Florence Pito, for example. She documented and drew and sketched out a whole bunch of stuff. She submitted to Good Housekeeping, very frequently. And I think, she had her byline there, but the designs themselves, she ended up, selling to, like, say, Paragon for the quilt kits. Those never had her name on them. Nowhere. You would never know without actually researching her. There's no indication. So it's unfortunate, because I think for some of this stuff, like, yeah, who made the money? I would assume Chicago. Yeah, the Chicago paper. And then, when things go into syndication, right? If they hold the rights to the name and the column content, then yeah, the Chicago paper, I would assume. Okay. The many names, conflicting pattern numbers, and the anonymity that was typical of pattern columns at the time combined to make following the trail of Nancy Cabot a bit difficult. Pattern collectors are still confused as to whether the patterns originated in Chicago at the Tribune, in New Jersey, the mailing address of the Spinning Wheel Syndicate, which apparently distributed the designs, or in Alabama, in the offices of Progressive Farmer. So they don't even know where they came from, much less who designed them. Although Loretta Leitner, and later Loretta Rising, never signed a Nancy Cabot design, the evidence indicates she was the originator of the Cabot column and the related syndicated designs. Okay, so she's saying it's Loretta. Her obituary, published in the Tribune after her death at 52 in 1958, described her as conductor of the column on knitting, crocheting, embroidery, and quilt patterns. In 1974, Edna Van Das, who compiled an index to the Tribune columns, interviewed a cousin of Loretta Leitner Rising, who confirmed that Loretta was responsible for the quilt patterns in the paper. She recalled her cousin as a small, auburn-haired woman, the only child of John Leitner, a diamond buyer, and Delia Scanlon, an Irish immigrant who designed gowns for the Chicago department store Marshall Field's. The family attributed Loretta's artistic talent to Delia. Loretta worked at the Tribune all of her adult life. It was the only place it occurred to me to work, she said. She began as a clerk who processed letters addressed to the Embarrassing Moments column, where readers sent in tales of their worst social gaffes. At some point in the 1930s, after she began the needlework column, she married M.H. Rising, and they had a son, M.H. Jr. I wonder what M.H. stood for. It must have been so horrible that they just called their junior an M.H. as well. The Tribune's Cabot columns all bear a signature style in both design and the chatty paragraph describing each. Many of the designs are traditional blocks, pieced stars, and 9-patch variations. But the Nancy Cabot column was distinctive in its emphasis on applique patterns. It was one of the first to publish and name the classic designs of the mid-19th century, and it was one of the major sources of modern applique patterns that reflect the taste of the 1930s. Her calla lily and brown-eyed Susans were more graphic and realistic than the old-fashioned roses and tulips. They undulated across the quilt block in contrast to the more formal symmetries of the past. Despite the modern appearance of the quilt patterns, the column emphasized old-fashioned roots. Interest in colonial antiques during the 1930s dictated that quilt patterns have a historical connection, accurate or not. Therefore, the Cabot column is a poor source for quilt history because it was probably made up. The newspaper writer tossed in dates and facts with abandon. It is, however, an excellent source for applique designs, traditional and innovative. That's pretty funny. The needlework column in the Tribune changed focus in the 1940s. Patterns for embroidered dish towels and cross-stitch mottos outnumbered quilt designs. But the Cabot quilt patterns continued in other periodicals. The last syndicated spinning wheel designs appeared in the late 1960s, a decade after Loretta Rising's death. It is likely that she was not the only artist involved with the complex system of spinning wheel, Betty Jones, and Cabot designs. The later patterns may have been designed by another, still anonymous artist, or they may have been recycled versions of those designed in Chicago. There is no index to Cabot designs now in print. At Quilter's Newsletter magazine, we are glad to have some old Tribune clippings and some well-used copies of Edna Van Das's Dutch Girl Quilting Scrapbook, which alphabetized them. I'm not familiar with that book. So it's a Dutch Girl Quilting Scrapbook is the name of the book. And Edna Van Das is Edna, as you would expect. Her last name is V-A-N space D-A-S. I think Van is like Von, right? Pretty close. Different country, perhaps. Okay. Over the years, we have given you many updates of Nancy Cabot patterns. In anticipation of Valentine's Day, we show here 4 designs by Nancy Cabot. So the first one is here. Hearts and Flowers appeared in the Tribune in July 1935 with the following copy. Typical of Nancy's prose and her emphasis on dates. Quite definitely Victorian is the quaint old-fashioned applique block Hearts and Flowers. The quilt first was made in 1888, shortly before the close of a most colorful era in history. Many people, who loudly proclaimed all Victorian pieces to be monstrosities, show how wrong they were, since this lovely applique block is just one small example of the beauty found during that period. This design does have the authentic look of a 19th century applique design, but today's quilt historians would guess at its age as mid-19th century rather than later. Valentine, number 2, which is this one, which I think this is really cute. I have never seen this block before, but my gosh, it's adorable. So Valentine was published in July 1936. It has the look of a Nancy Cabot original, as does Cupid's Bow, which is this, which was published in December 1936. Cupid's Dart, which is this one, was from October 1935, is a variation of the late 19th century charm quilt design, a single pattern piece repeated all over the quilt. In past issues of Quilter's Newsletter magazine, we have given patterns for Cupid's darts and Cupid's bow. And so she's listing the actual issue numbers of these. On this page, you will find a pattern for hearts and flowers, and on the following page are two more Nancy Cabot designs from the 1930s. And then she says, for comparison, the Kansas City Star published approximately 1,000 patterns between 1928 and 1961. Since it began publication in 1969, Quilter's Newsletter magazine has published about 2,500 quilt patterns. So that's pretty amazing. So, and then this is obviously this hearts and flowers, and then they give the instructions on how to tape the four corners together, the four quadrants together. And the other ones here that they included are Wind-Blown Daisy. That's interesting. Oh, you know what? This is Hearts and Gizzards. That's the block right there. That's Hearts and Gizzards. And then this one is called Double Poppy. Curved piecing. Lots of not fun. Druid. So now you're going to get some information on Van and Von. So Van is Dutch and Von is German. Both mean from or of in surnames, indicating geographical origin or lineage. The primary difference is that Von traditionally signifies German nobility, while Van is a common Dutch prefix used by anyone regardless of status. Yes, I'd heard that that Von is supposed to be German nobility, and then I've seen the people that pick up the Von just because they think they can. I always think of Kat Von D. I feel like, girl, that's not your real last name. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. We do have time for, maybe I can finish up. Let's see how much more of this chapter we have. Lots. Yeah, we're looking at the triangle and rectangle. Well, maybe we can do it. Let us look at Averil Col. And where did we leave off here? Okay. We'll get some of this. All right. So as a reminder, we have been reading Patchwork by Averil Col, a British author and quilter and collector and teacher. And this was published in 1958. We are on, I think, chapter 4. Let me double check here. Yes, chapter 4, Geometrical Shapes and Patterns. And we have just gotten to the point where she's going to talk about the square. That also complicated pattern piece, the square. Quilts made from square patches only are rare, probably because the severe outline is not sufficiently inspiring, and also it is remarkably difficult to make patches which are perfectly square. Now, what she's talking about is not piecing as we know it, I'm pretty sure, but she is talking about English paper piecing, and it is difficult to make an English paper piecing square or an applique-on square. Checkered patterns in one color and white are the most usual, and red and white or blue and white checks are used sometimes for signature quilts. A coverlet made entirely of squares about 1836 relies for its design on an arrangement of gradually shaded color in succeeding borders. Well, that sounds interesting. Towards the end of the 19th century, there was a vogue for pictorial designs made in the manner of a cross-stitch sampler. The individual patches were rarely more than 1 inch square, and sometimes less, and each patch was the equivalent of 1 square in cross-stitch canvas. So I'm thinking about like the Ann Orr quilts. So it'll be interesting to see what she's talking about here. But this whole idea of like the cross-stitch quilts, obviously there are quilts that have cross-stitching on them, but this cross-stitch quilt idea was obviously the tiny little blocks or tiny little squares that end up looking like a cross-stitch pattern once you put them all together. Towards the end of the 19th century, there was a vogue for pictorial designs made in the manner of a cross-stitch sampler. The individual squares were rarely more than 1 inch square and sometimes less, and each patch was the equivalent of 1 square in cross-stitch canvas. A double bed coverlet dated 1847 was made to represent a whole cross-stitch sampler, with the alphabet in rows in a center panel and surrounding patterns of birds, animals, and flowers. So she's actually talking about like samplers. That's pretty cool, actually, because, you think about Ann Orr's stuff was like a basket of flowers, things like that. The pictures in the corridors and foyer of the dress circle of the Stratford Memorial Theater are unique examples of this kind of pattern making. The American flag, illustrated in traditional quilting, is popular in South Wales and the North Country and is made of brightly colored calico squares in a crisscross pattern on white. It is always done in one color, mostly red, blue, or pink, with a white ground. Border patterns made from squares are popular. Many of them are used to surround center panels, and several sizes of squares are contained in some of them to make trim secondary patterns. So this is like what she's talking about here. But this is interesting. The American flag, illustrated in traditional quilting. So is she talking about, I don't have it here. Who wrote traditional quilting? Let's see. Does she mention here? Because now that's confusing me a bit. No, of course not. The Brits never have a bibliography, do they? Yeah, I'm not sure what, because it's in italics, so it's definitely another book. But I don't remember who wrote traditional quilting, if it's one we've read. It wasn't Mavis Fitz-Randolph, was it? I don't think so. Have to make a note and figure that one out. And so the American flag, this was really confusing me. It's popular in South Wales and North Country, and it's brightly colored calico squares and a crisscross pattern. I mean, it's kind of what, I feel like this is what she's talking about here, but that's not what she's talking about. I am confused, you guys. I don't know. Okay. North Country strip quilts often have stripes of light and dark square patches alternating with others of plain calico or print. Squares are inseparable from octagons in simple patterns made with this shape. And they are also used in patterns made with church windows and rectangles. So I guess we got to remember what we were talking about the other day, which are the church window. And I can see here it is with squares. Okay. The rectangle. Rectangle patches alone are not popular for pattern making and have been limited to 2 or 3 traditional patterns. It is a shape which has been used mostly for the rougher kind of quilts made in districts where woolen cloth, homespun tweeds, and flannel were manufactured. The trade patterns were easy to obtain and were joined without further shaping in the brick-shaped pieces in which they were cut. Cotton trade patterns, identical in size and shape, were used to make zigzag and brick pattern quilts. Brick pattern is always made with the patches arranged hit and miss fashion in light and dark colors. The muslin coverlet illustrated is in colors of pale blue, lilac, and brown. But a more robust 20th century Weardale quilt is made of rose red patterned cotton in the brick wall pattern and is distinguished from brick pattern by unbleached calico cement between the bricks. The quilting pattern follows the patchwork. So this is a future block she's talking about. We'll get there. It literally does look like a brick wall, I can tell you that much. But these other things, this is a fun one. This is one, like, this is kind of how you create, right? Yeah. How you piece together the blocks or the strips of fabric to make, a Star of Bethlehem quilt, or Lone Star. And then this, I don't know, this kind of zigzaggy thing. I mean, I've seen like zigzaggy and streak of lightning. I guess, I don't know. I guess things I've seen that maybe used rectangles like that, perhaps I just didn't notice the rectangleness of it, right? Because of the fabrics. So I don't know. I never gave much thought to the fact that like rectangles are maybe not used that much. I don't know. Large rectangular pieces were often used in borders of quilts in which the design was made from smaller and geometrical pieces. Narrow rectangular patches were often used to make border patterns for applique and patchwork coverlets. The patterns were varied with patches set sometimes straight with the edge of the work, but more often arranged at an angle to give a serrated pattern. Short pieces of linen tape are used in some border patterns in a kind of zigzag pattern, which is shown in two early coverlets. Again, future. Yeah, falling dominoes. You're right. I did have that in. I did kind of have that in the corner of my mind, and I didn't say it. But yes, it does remind me of dominoes. In common with other shapes, rectangles have been adapted to vary a pattern. One is a rhomboid shape, which you see here, found in applique and patchwork zigzag patterns, and the other, a little hard to describe, makes a similar pattern but is more often used with triangles in mosaic borders. So this is what she's talking about. It's just another type of parallelogram, right? It's got two parallel sides. Or does a parallelogram have to have? I mean, a parallelogram is like a squish square. I think we would call this. I think this is a parallelogram too. My gosh, I have lost my high school geometry. Okay, the octagon. Octagons need the addition of another shape to complete a pattern. It is not possible to join all 8 sides of a patch to its nearest neighbors without leaving a square space on each alternate side. The space may be filled by one solid square or a square made of 2 or 4 triangles. The squares are usually in one dominant color, such as scarlet, dark blue, black, or brown, and the octagons in a variety of colors. Large octagonal pieces are part of the pattern in the Levens Hall bed furnishings. The best patterns show an attempt to group the patches into matching colors, and this can be seen in an illustrated quilt in the future. There are so many quilts in the back of this book. We will look at them, though. Which was made in Devon and is typical of many patterns found in the southwestern counties, especially Devon and Somerset. It seems also to have been a local pattern in parts of Westmoreland, where good quilts in red and white calico were made of it. It is used in mosaic border patterns, and a border of applied octagons on squares is illustrated. So, I mean, this is what she's talking about here. And finally, the pentagon. It is not possible to make any flat patchwork from a number of equilateral pentagons joined together. 12 patches, when joined, result in a circular ball-like shape, to which it is not possible to add further pieces. And that is true. You can literally make a soccer ball, like a soccer ball, with pentagons. At one time, pin cushions made from these balls were used for work boxes or hanging ornaments in the parlor. They were usually made of silk or felt. Pentagons, which are not equilateral, were used to make the box and star patterns when combined with a hexagon and 6 diamonds. A pin cushion is also illustrated. So this, you know, I never thought of this as an elongated pentagon, but that is exactly what it is. I feel kind of dumb because I drafted an English paper piecing pattern. Oh gosh, a long time ago. I was working on a sort of a piece for spec, and I used pieces like this as like petals, flower petals, around a central, I think, hexagon. I think, yeah. So that is it for chapter 4. I got it to work out perfectly. All right, guys. Next time when we come together, we shall see chapter 5. Chapter 5 is geometrical designs and color. So moving from shape to color. So as a reminder, I will not be here on Thursday, and I will not be here next Monday, but I will be back next Thursday. I also have to show you something really quickly before we go. I am not good at crochet. So, as you know, I was going to work on my Jonathan Adler kits this weekend. You know, I think I did a good job with the diamond art. I think I did an okay job with the punch needle. I don't know about this crochet, y'all. So this is the head. I had to pull this out and recrochet it a number of times. Although this chenille fabric, oh my gosh, it is absolutely so soft and luxurious. It also hides a lot of mistakes. I can tell you that. But the fact that it hides all those mistakes is what makes it difficult because it's hard to find the stitch to put your hook in. And then this is the face of this horrific baboon. So this is his face, like, so this is the head, this part here. This back part is the mane, and then this is its face. And I did finally figure out, remember, I could not for the life of me figure out where the wire went. The wire is part of the mane. So this is the mane, and you have to crochet the wire on or inside of a stitch. It's the second to the last round that you do on this piece. What a damn nightmare. I think it is really obvious that I don't crochet very well. It is not my craft. And, you know, the instructions here for this say, you know, that you have to have some crocheting experience, I believe. What does it say? Intermediate skill level. Knowledge of crochet is required. Well, I thought I had a knowledge of crochet, but maybe not so much. So Marianne does not crochet at all. So, but I feel like you could probably do just as well as I did. In any event, I hope, plan, and pray by the time I get back, I could have maybe the body done and you guys will be able to laugh at me. So we'll see. I fudged a lot. So again, thank goodness for the nature of this chenille yarn, which is so soft. So very soft. It's like cashmere. All right, guys. I will see you a week from Thursday. I will come back with pictures because I'm going to the New England Quilt Museum and I'm going to Block Island, in the Historical Society there on Block Island. So hopefully I'll have lots of cool pictures for you. So, you know, yeah, well, crochet, Crochet as tight as can be. Yeah. Well, I guess it just takes some practice, right? Yeah. Yes, Block Island. I'm so excited. The New England Quilt Study Group last year went to Block Island before their season. The season starts, I think, um, next week, I think. So we're going on Sunday, like Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, I'm very excited myself. We get to stay with a friend of ours that lives there part of the year. So or she lives right outside of well, in Rhode Island. So yeah. Oh, wonderful, Word Bird Nerd. Yes, you were in where you must have been in there the second day, I think. Um Everybody says so many great things about about Janet's study center. So, yeah, I will get to see where that shipwreck fabric comes from. Yeah, in Portland, yeah. She redid it at a winter virtual seminar too. So, I'm very excited. Janet's a dear friend. Um and yeah, they'll I guess yeah, their season will open up like I think it's literally next week. I think we're getting in there literally like a day or two before their season starts. So, all right, you guys, have a wonderful week. I will miss you, but I will try and post some stuff. You know, I'm so bad about that. I do my best. Um, but I'll miss you and I'll see you soon. So, bye.